1. Had to include that picture. Today we're talking about graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. And your essential question is, how can you describe the graph of the equation y equals mx plus b, and what are intercepts? So let's start with intercepts. Intercepts are just wherever the line that you're drawing crosses the x and y axis. So if this is your graph and you have your line here, the intercepts, the y-intercept is here and the x-intercept is here. It's wherever your actual line that you drew from your equation is crossing the x and the y-axis. So we have an x-intercept and a y-intercept. You don't always have both, but many times you do. Alright, so we're going to graph the equation, find the slope, and find the point where the line crosses the y-axis. When we're graphing these equations, you may want to use the slope-intercept form of the line to graph, which is simply, this is my slope, my slope is always with my x, and this is my y-intercept. So, to graph, I start at 1. That's where I'm crossing the y-axis. That's why it's called the y-intercept. And then my slope is down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. So my line remember, big bold lines that go through the graph looks like that. So in this case, my y-intercept is 1, and my x-intercept is 2. Alright, letter B. My y-intercept is 2, so I look on my y-axis at 2. That's my starting point. And from there, the negative in front of the x means negative 1 over 1 is my slope. So I'm going down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So my line looks like this, all the way through the graph. And my y-intercept is 2, and my x-intercept is 2. The next two graphs, we're doing the same thing. So I'm starting at negative 2, because that's what my y-intercept is. And again, I have this negative, which means negative, negative 1 over 1. So So I'm going down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. If I felt like I was running out of room that way, I could go up 1, left 1. And so my line looks like this. My y-intercept is -2. My x-intercept is -2. I don't want you to try letter D on your own. Starting y-intercept of 1 and using your slope of up 1 over 2. Go ahead and graph that line and identify your two intercepts. How can you describe the graph of the equation y equals mx plus b? Well, we have a lot of information when we have a graph. We can talk about the steepness of the line. We can talk about the y-intercept of the line. Those are the two main things, because what we're given here is the slope and the y-intercept. How does the value of m affect the graph of the equation? Well, the m is just the slope, so it could be positive or negative slope. And again, it's the steepness that's affected. How does the value of b affect the graph of the equation? Whatever my b value is where I'm crossing on the y-axis, on this axis. So what it really does is it affects how high up or down the graph is. Why do you think y equals mx plus b is called the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line? I think that's pretty clear. It's because we're given the slope and y-intercept in the equation. Alright, moving on. Find the slope and y-intercept of the graph of the linear equations. So all you have to do is tell me what m equals and what b equals. B just represents y-intercept. I don't know why they chose the letter B, but y is already used in our equation, so they couldn't choose that. So I went with B, I guess. I'm not sure. But the slope is 3, and the y-intercept is -7. Here, we do not have the equation of the line the way that we like to see it. So we're going to have to solve for y first. So in this case, y equals -2/3 x plus 1. So my slope is -2/3. My y-intercept is 1. Notice I do not put x here. If you put x there, that is incorrect. The slope is just 3. It's not 3x. The slope here is just -2/3. It's not -2/3 x. On number 6, we need to identify the x-intercept. So To figure out where it crosses the x-axis, we would graph it. Starting at 3. We're going down 3 over 1. And that made life pretty simple because my x-interception is just 1. Alright, 7 and 8 we have a couple of word problems. The cost y in dollars of taking a taxi x miles is 2.5x plus 2. Graph the equation and interpret the y-intercept and the slope. So we can graph it rather easily. We start at 2. We're going, I need to revise my graph. We start at 2. We're going up 2.5 over 1. I'm going to try something different here. Again, up 2.5 over 1. So my line looks like that. To interpret the y-intercept, so at x equals 0, which x is miles, so at 0 miles, this taxi ride is going to cost us $2. And then after that, we're increasing by a rate of 2.5. So what I would say about all of this is that the ride costs $2 plus $2.50. X is miles, so $2.50 per mile. Alright, number 8 says the cost y in dollars of taking a different taxi x miles is y equals 2x plus 1.5. Interpret the y-intercept and the slope. So go ahead and try that one for homework. Have a great night.